now. I'm seeing a lot of motivational posts online. I'm seeing a lot of I call them wishes, to be honest. A lot of people kind of say like their goals and stuff, but it just sounds like a wish list to me, at least. And I want to be that guy, but you know.
Yeah, most of that stuff is not really gonna move the needle. But you know what will, though? Our topic today.
No, that's not like a sponsor segment.
Better health. Use code Atlas. No, but yeah, for real though, like I think how you go about shaping your goals is by standards, right? They're not necessarily goals, they're standards. And so that's something that we filmed. But something I'm thinking about as well is sacrifices, right? Yep. So what are you going to what are you willing to sacrifice? I can think
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm being a menace right now. No, it's like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, I'm just like trolling and stuff like that, so it's kind of funny to like try to snap back into like film mode. No, but I think that is really important though, for sure, because I think a lot of people, when they're setting goals, like they don't think about how, it's funny, even me and my dad were talking about this as well, like about, you know, goals and the new year and stuff like that. And you're not going to get new outcomes being the old version of yourself or even the current version of yourself. So in order to be able to bring that new thing into fruition, you need to be able to either let go of some old habits or, if anything, just double down on what's already working or something, because that's something that I've found myself getting pretty frustrated with at times, is when like I wanted this new goal, but then actually look at like my actual day-to-day habits, and it really wasn't that different from me having the previous goals. And how I think that's something that people can definitely get lost in, is we have these different goals every year, you know, whether it's like physically or financially, but then you're actually looking at your day-to-day habits and not much is changing. So I think as you're elevating your goals, you need to be able to raise that standard. Like you said, it's not a goal, it's a standard. Or even when it comes to the diet stuff, you know, I think people have like a diet mentality when it comes to their goals, about how it's not a diet. Oh, it's like, you know, people have this diet mentality where it's like, oh, I'm only going to be this person for X amount of time. I'm only going to eat healthy for 3 to 4 months, and then I'm going to go back to my old habits. And like, that's not the way that it works, especially for like long-term sustained success. Lifestyle. Exactly. And it kind of sounds like a corny thing to say, especially if you like keep up with a lot of the fitness pages and stuff like that. But it is true. Like, it's a change of mentality, it's an elevation of standards, and being able to combine all of those things to be able to get to your goals, what's actually going to get you there, instead of having this kind of short term, I'm just going to pretend like I'm this person to get to this thing that I want, and then after I get what I want, I'm going to go right back.
It's funny, like I said lifestyle, and the only thing, like after I said lifestyle, Young Thug Lifestyle was playing on, I didn't hear anything you just said. I'm like that's the only thing I swear to God.
Bro, I have like the biggest like mental radio. Like somebody will be saying something, like you said, they'll say like a line, and I'm like, hold up, I love that song.
Half of my way, yeah. Anyway, before, because I could go into the whole thing. No, but for real, like, you know, you have to find out, what are you willing to sacrifice? What time are you really? What relationships are you willing to cut off? And like, we're about to get serious here, but like, you know. People will say like, oh yeah, I should have been cut that person off, or yeah, I'm gonna cut that person off, and never do, because at some point you need to say like, hey, that person's not good for me, bye. Right? Because at the end of the day, you know, and that same, you know, you've heard this a billion times, or you haven't. Maybe this is your first time hearing it, but, you know, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right.
And that is such a true, like, you know, even like when we started coming off, there's stuff that like I do because I just hang out with you so much, but I know it's from you. And it's like, oh my gosh, like what the heck? Like, it's just crazy that happens, but those things happen subconsciously. So that's something that you have to be really careful about. So if there are people that you want to start distancing yourself from, I think going into a new year is a great time to do that, right in that transition, because like it can just seem like, oh, like I'm just focusing on this thing, or I'm doing something new. And so it's like, you know, what relationships are you willing to sacrifice? What things are you willing to give away to gain something better? And so it's like, you know, whether that's with your time, whether that's just with, you know, just like little things like, okay, you know, I'm going to sacrifice not going out this time or that time, or I'm going to sacrifice going to bed early because I want to wake up and work out, right? So just like really like the little things, like the things that you want to sacrifice to see what you want.
Right. Well, because I think it even goes beyond like your personal goals, because I think a question that I've started to ask myself lately is, are not only like my own personal standards being congruent, but are my group's standards congruent with my personal standards that I hold for myself? Because sometimes you'll kind of go into an environment like, oh man, I want to start working out this year, I want to start doing this, and then you hang out with people that none of them work out, that's not even on the agenda, and it's honestly really hard for you, especially because we're such social creatures, for you to do something that's out of character to the group. So if you're trying to be some like fitness buff and really go crazy with that this year and really focus on that, if your entire circle does not work out and they don't make that a priority and they're not going to the gym, they're not really worried about their eating and whatever, it's going, not that it can't happen, but that it's going to be this extra struggle for you to try to get over that hump. And so I think that's something that I like to think about is, you know, when it comes to my group and the people that I surround myself with, do we have the same goals? Are we being congruent with that? And just going from there.
And sometimes you have to decide to be the maverick. Sometimes, like, you know, no matter how much you want it for other people and you want them to work out more or make more money or do whatever, that's just not who they are. And so sometimes you do have to step out and be like, hey, you know, I would love to still be with you guys and stuff like that, but like, hey, I want something new. I want a new thing, right? So, you know, it's not going to be congruent with what everyone's doing. And sometimes you're never, you know, and I think that's even a better thing to say. Like, sometimes there's going to be a point where you're literally the only one. Sometimes there's going to be a point where you're literally the only one who believes in you. Sometimes you're going to be the only one that wants to work out. Sometimes you're the only one that wants more for your life. And so it's like, what do you do in that state, right? You know, I've been in places like that where it's like, dang, it's really just me, right? You know, of course, I have my family and all that stuff, and they're really supportive. But
you have all these people in your life, like, I've been grinding alone for years.
That's right. You know, I'm not like that at all.
Start crying on the podcast.
You know, I have a great support system, and I think cultivated by me, but not only me, but my parents. You know, the family has you know, cultivated that. But
it's culture. You know what I mean? Even like family culture, you know, friend culture. I think that's something that people don't think about. It's like not only your personal standards, but what are the group standards and what is the group culture of what you do in your day-to-day routines? Because even like thinking about like how you like spend time as a group doing, to me, that's really interesting as well, because there are a lot of groups who, especially if fitness is a part of your priority list, that people go to the gym together. Like, you know, being able to do these things in unison together, I think is very powerful. Because I think, once again, we are such social creatures that it's only going to help if everyone in your circle, at least most people in your circle, are trying to improve in that way and you guys are moving together, because it's a lot easier to move as a group. But I do agree with you in the sense of, like, somebody's gets, you know, in that situation, sometimes it has to be you doing something alone to be able to step out and then pull the group. And that can happen. I've been in situations where, like, for example, I'm a big skateboarder and stuff like that. So like I was like one of the first kids to start skateboarding on my street. Next thing you know, all my friends are skateboarding. So that can happen, but I wouldn't rely on that. And I think that's something that's definitely dangerous as well. Like, oh, I want to start traveling more, but then like you won't travel because the people that you're with right now won't travel. And so that's something that you feel like you're giving up in yourself, and now you're getting bitter with other people because they don't want to do the things that you want to do. And it just becomes this thing. So I think being able to have people in your life that are in line with your end goals, I think are really important.
It's like something that you always say is like, someone's got to do it, right? Someone's got to be the one to step up, right? So it's like, maybe it is you. And I would say 90% of the time, other people aren't going to follow. No. If you have a real goal that you really want to attack, and it's like way above anything that, you know, the people that you're hanging out can even believe for, and I'm gonna sidestep. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna go back to the last point because I just got a new idea. Because, you know, I catch myself because I edit this thing, right? So like, I'm like, hey, Amir, you never went back to that point, and this is about to be a moment like that of you know, thinking, and I lost the whole thing, and that's okay.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did that, because last time, like in the 4 minutes that we filmed before that, I literally had the same moment. Oh yeah. So now we're back on the same plate.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, bro, like, again, I'm not perfect. I forget stuff all the time, right? Cool. No, but yeah, you're gonna be the type of person that needs to step out. I'm saying all this to remember myself. But
I think my thing is, like, I guess I was trying to remember what you were thinking. I've been on a big wave lately of just stop expecting other people to do what you want to do. You know what I mean? So if you, like, for example, if you want to start traveling more, like, this has been a big thing for me. It's like, I can't expect other people to want to do exactly what I want to do. If that's a priority for you, then you need to do that. You know what I mean? This is a you problem. And maybe you can ask, like, oh, hey, you want to do this trip? Or if you want to start working out, whatever. And maybe they can join you, maybe they don't. But I think at the same time, like, I've been on a big wave of, like, independence of, like, if this is a you goal, then it is your responsibility to do that.
Your sole responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can't expect people to care as much about your goals as you do. You can't expect people to, you know, follow every single idea that you want to do. And I think that's been a big wave for me lately of just saying, hey, like, what are the things that I care about? What are my priorities? And being able to walk alone. I think for me, like, especially growing up and stuff, like, I mean, I went through lone wolf phases and stuff like that. So the idea of doing things alone doesn't really intimidate me as much as maybe other people. But I think you have to be willing to do that for your own development, to be able to not only stand for your own ideas, but to get the things out of life that you want to get, because everyone's list is going to be different, everyone's priorities are different, and so stop waiting for the group approval, the family friend to come with you, whatever it is, because funny enough, like, well, not really funny, but like just kind of coincidentally talking about that topic, like I recently went to a funeral, and like it just got me thinking about life and about how much time we have, and it's like, especially with this limited amount of time that we're dealing with, we don't have time to wait and hope and wish and hesitate and procrastinate. And it's like, that's been a big wake up call for me. And it's kind of something that I want to continue to remind myself about. Even with Steve Jobs, and his speech was so powerful when he realized he had cancer and stuff. It's like, I didn't mean to take it like such a heavy, dark turn, but I think, for me, just it kind of correlated because I felt like you need to do the things that are important to you. I think everyone should have a bucket list of something like, these are the things that are most important to me. If like, let's say, like, and I like to keep things concise to really see like what I actually value. Like, if I could only do 5 things in this life, what are they? And really sitting down with that and being able to have these different categories. I'm very categorical, so I like to say, all right, family, friends, money, like all these different things, and say, what do I really value? What's the order of that? And being able to think that through, because once you have that clarity, it's very powerful to be able to delegate energy towards those goals.
Yeah, and my thought came back to me here, and I think I think you kind of said it in a way, in a different way, but the thing that I was thinking about is, hey, think bigger about your goals, about your life, about the bigger picture. And so it's like, you need to have this, I think you need to write out your goal, and then like whatever it is, and then times it by 10, like automatically, and then that is the standard now we're living by, not just like, okay, maybe you say you want to make $50K this year, just go ahead, do something crazy, just times it by 10, right? Because I feel like that is where, and maybe you may not even hit that goal, but you're gonna hit way over that bottom one. So you're just anchoring yourself higher, right? And so I think when you think bigger about things, and you think bigger about your standards and your goals and all that stuff, that it'll automatically draw you higher, and you don't even realize, oh snap, like I wasn't gonna do 50, but I did 80. Right. And you didn't even realize, like, oh snap, like that was cool, like I did that,
No, exactly. I think for me, like, your level of effort is directly correlated with how much of a priority that is in your life. And that's something for me that I've kind of gotten on myself about, is like, reviewing previous goals and just kind of being like painfully honest about myself about why did I not put the energy in that I knew I needed to put in for me to get the goal. And the truth is, it just wasn't a priority. Because I think you only have so much time, you only have so much energy, and so you can't give, we're talking about this off the podcast, but like, you can't be 50 different things at one time. You can't be 100% in on all these different categories at one time. So naturally, there's an inherent like ranking that you have to do in your mind of, what do I want to focus on? What's important for me in this season? And that does change. Like, you don't have to be locked in on one idea for 5 years. But I think there are like, maybe this is the businessman in me, but I like to break things down by quarter. So like, what quarter, what am I focusing on in this next 3-4 months that are really going to feel like, I can look back on that year and say, I'm glad I spent that time digging in on that one area of my life.
It's like, do you want that thing more than air? And I know that's dramatic, like the air that you breathe in your lungs, right? And so it's like, how bad, like, because you have to get to this place, and I know for myself that there's a place that I need to get, there's a protocol that I need to go by in order to reach these levels that I want to go at. It's like, how bad do I want it? And that is going to decide the placement you have that thing. It's like, hey, it's like, okay, we talked about this earlier, right? It's like, fitness, this, that, and the third. It's like, okay, I want to be really fit, but I'm not working out 2 hours a day, because that's 2 hours a day that I could have put to something else. Now, I can allocate, 45 to an hour maybe, but that's where it is. Like, I can do that daily, and, you'll be just fine doing it like that if you really have a structured workout plan. But that's the thing, is like, hey, fitness is high, but this is a little higher, maybe business is a little higher, and maybe, just other things, maybe this new hobby is higher than, my fitness, like whatever it is, because at some point, it'll equal out. I'm like, oh no, you focus on that one way more than those other things last year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, even a fun question that I like to ask people just to kind of see where their head's at is, if you could paint your ideal life, if I just gave you a notebook and I said, write down exactly how your ideal life would be, no limits, no anything, what would that look like? And I think for me that's an interesting question, because it not only tells me just, like just what your kind of fantasy world would look like if everything went your way, but also what do you prioritize and what do you value? And I think being able to ask that question to yourself is going to help give clarity in your own kind of psyche about what you should be focusing on and what you should be delegating that energy to, because you're now painting a compelling picture of what you want in your life. And that's been a big thing, because I think your goals have to inspire you. I think it's really easy to set these like very attainable goals to feel good about accomplishing them, but they don't really inspire you to want to actually be better. And that's something that I've worked on, especially going into this year, of just sitting down and making a compelling vision statement for your life and being able to paint those pictures and visualize that and really kind of motivate yourself to be able to want to get to that next level.
And you know what, too, making those goals close by reading them every day, right? It's kind of the, I want to say, Think and Grow Rich. If like writing your goals down and how you're gonna attain those goals, but not only doing that, but looking them over day in and day, when the day's over. So I was like, one of the first things I'm doing when I wake up, I may do my little, prayer / meditation thing. For me, coffee first before I do anything. I say, God, thank you for waking me up and then get some coffee. Like, I'm gonna be honest, that's like my whole vibe right there. But like after that, I do my little routine. I'm looking at my affirmations and my, my goals for the year, and I've already written them out. I think I wrote them out like 2 weeks ago, so I already know what goals I want to hit for next year.
Right.
And so it's like, going back to that. And now, like every day I wake up, like I do my little routine. After I read, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, because that's setting your mind to what to focus on.
Right.
Because you're like, if that thing on your list is like, hey, I want to get more fit. But in order for you to get more fit, then that means you need to make more time for working out. Yeah. So that means during your day. So if you read that in the morning, and then like 3 hours from then, you catch yourself scrolling on TikTok. You're like, this is not doing any like that. I've done that to myself, and what's really helped me is I call it and I say it out loud. Right? Yeah. It's not just this like, oh man, I spent 20 minutes. I was like, no, I'm wasting time by looking at this. Like I say it, and this might sound crazy to other people, but like I have to do those things for myself, because I need to get this in my subconscious. Like my mind needs to know, like, hey, what you're doing right now is not conducive to your goals. And so sometimes, even throughout the middle of the day when I do that, I'll say that out loud so I'm hearing it. And then I'll even look at my affirmations again, like, okay, cool. I know this is the goal. Throw my phone behind me and keep working. Right. Or even something better that I've been doing this for years now, though. Like when I'm working, I'll put my phone in the closet or I'll put it in a drawer. So it's like it's on do not disturb and it's on a drawer. So I was like, I'm definitely not hearing that thing. Yeah. And after you get in that flow state, you wouldn't even like, I'm like, oh shoot, I have a phone. Like, I have the people that I have to hit up. And so, once you do that, again, you're creating your environment to win, right? Because something that James Clear says is like, you want to set your environment up to win. You don't want it to be this big, fight every time you want to achieve a new goal. You don't want to be bumping into that thing, because then it feels like you're starting over. It feels like a new thing each time. So it's like, you don't even have to do that. Just set your environment up for you to win, and then everything else will follow, right? For instance, not working with your phone, not having your phone, or even as small as like, don't have TikTok or anything on your front page. So as soon as you open up your phone, you don't even see that. Like for my front page, I can tell you what I have on my front page right now. I have a productivity folder. I have a finances folder, Bible app, and Audible. Yeah. And so it's like, and then Spotify at the bottom, because like, we love music over here. But right there alone is like, that shows me what my priority is. Like someone can look at my phone and know, okay, so you really prioritize your finances, faith, Audible. So, getting things in, music. And then I have like, my productivity, which is like my business folder. Yeah. So it's like, you can look at my phone alone and know what I prioritize, right? So it's like, when you open up your phone, what is your priorities? Yeah. What is the first thing you see? Because then that will automatically show you what your priorities are. Right.
Well, I think a big thing for that is like even coming down to the point of clarity. Because a lot of people, I feel like, throw out these general blanket statements and they don't actually really know what that means. Mm-hmm. And because they don't know what that means, they can't make a map towards it because they don't know what they're aiming for. Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, people throw out the idea of like, oh, I'm going to get fit. What does fit mean to you? I mean, we were talking about this too, even with money. It's like people say rich. What dollar amount is rich? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What physique look is fit to you? You know what I mean? And getting down to that specific. And there's really no like right or wrong answer necessarily. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of about like, what do you envision this thing being? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And being able to have that clarity. Because I think the problem is a lot of people paint these general, like, I want to be successful what does success mean to you? What do you want that ideal life to look like? You know, I think really digging into that, and it may sound like just kind of logistics or just little minor details, but those details matter, because when it comes to those times where you don't feel like getting up in the morning, you don't want to do the things that you know you should be doing, I think having that specific map of like, okay, this is exactly what I need to do because this is exactly what I'm aiming for. Because how are you supposed to hit your goals if you don't even know what you're aiming for?
It's that specific atlas. I wanted you to say that so bad. I was waiting for you to say it. I was like, say it. Atlas. You know, it's coming back to an oh my gosh, I feel so disgusting. Business entrepreneur person saying this, but what is your why? You know? But it's true. Like it's so funny. Like all the cliche things are 90% of the times.
I know. Well, and even doing this podcast, I kind of realized it as well. Like even about like the whole. Like your net worth is gonna be your network or something like that. But I really believe that. It sounds so corny. I think especially, you know, for us being entrepreneurs, and hopefully a lot of the advice that we give on the show is like applicable to everyone. Because, you know, once again, everyone's goals are going to be different. Everyone's values are different. Everyone's priorities are different. And so like that's why we try not to give like very specific advice, because it comes down to really you and your needs and what you want for your life. But we can only speak to what we care about, and what we value, and things that we're aiming for. So when we sound kind of businessy, it's because we're business people,
right?
You know,
everything that I do flows out of like 3 buckets of life. It's kind of like self-development, business, and my faith, right? So it's like everything. Like if you just look at everything that I do, it flows out of one of those areas at some point.
Right.
So like those are like my buckets of life. So like anytime I'm speaking, like you said, I'm speaking out of my own experience, right? I'm speaking out of my own, but don't atlas, you know? No, but for real, like that is the I gotta stop that. No, but that is how, you know, we do this thing of like when we're talking to people, it's like, hey, like this is what works for me. You need to figure out what works for you. You know?
Exactly, because I feel like everyone wants us to like, or not like even us, but I think a lot of these type of shows to be able to say, what should I do with my life? I'm like, we can't say that because like I don't know what you want. I don't know what you care about. You know, you may tell me something's a priority for you, but then you actually get into it and you're like, I don't like this.
I don't want to do that.
I don't care. You know, because some people it's like, hey, I don't want to make a lot of money, but I want to have great relationships with people, and I want to really have meaningful connections with people for a long time. I want to have a great circle. You know, so great. So you know, your goals and priorities are going to shift versus someone who you know wants to become, you know, generationally wealthy and they want to pass on money to their kids and that whole thing as well. So like I said, so it's kind of hard for us to give, you know, very specific metrics, but I think at the same time it just comes down to, you know, you sitting down with yourself. And I'm a big you know, proponent of, I call them like think sessions, where I pretty much put on something called Dream Hop. Yeah, look it up on YouTube if you've never heard of it. It's like some of the chillest music you'll ever listen to. And I just sit down with a notepad, like a physical notepad, because I'm gonna get distracted if I have my phone out and stuff. You already know how that goes. And just really ask myself these important questions about my life and about, you know, how kind of do a mental health check on yourself. Like, how am I doing? Do I feel like, am I still, the goals that I say I wanted at the beginning of this year, do I still want those things? Like, what has changed? What have I learned? Even something that I'm doing this year, kind of talking about what's going to be different for us going into next year. I want to start doing a lesson log. And we talked about this a little bit before we got started.
That's a good idea.
But just really having like a month by month, like, hey, what did I learn in this month of my life? Because I think especially it's really easy for you to forget very important lessons in your life until you run into the same situation again. And we definitely don't want to get in the habit of repeating mistakes or trying to, you know, like just keep on repeating, basically just keep repeating mistakes. And so,
keep you in cycle. It's this trend on TikTok is like, you know, it's like repeat the you know, stop the habit today or the loop will continue tomorrow. Stop the habit today. And like my deep introspective self, like when I was thinking about that, like I'm like, yo, that is the deepest thing ever.
There's a really good quote.
You know, repeat the habit today or the loop will continue tomorrow.
Right.
And it's like, yo, that is deep for me because it's like, yo, if you don't stop that thing today, if you don't cut that thing off today, it's going to rear its ugly head tomorrow. So you got to find ways to just like, okay, let me stop this thing.
Right. Well, I was going to say when it comes to habits and stuff, like I love what Warren Buffett said. The chains of habit are too tight to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. And I was like, man, when I read that, that's very, very true. Because I think a lot of times, like you don't necessarily realize just like the little things that you're doing day in, day out until you try to make a major change. And then you're like, dang, this is like more heavy than I thought it was. For example, with me, I felt like a couple of months ago, I was getting distracted very easily. I was on my phone during work. I couldn't, get into what they call a flow state for all the entrepreneur business people out there that are into that kind of thing.
It was really flow state.
Yeah. And so I think for me, it was really hard to like stay consistently focused. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on Do Not Disturb. I'm going to put my phone away and everything. And it was a battle. It was like, man, I am more like, I don't have ADHD or anything, but it was like, man, I find it hard for me to be able to consistently sit down and focus.
Attached to your phone, like all of us are.
Well, and because it's a habit, you know. So I think just kind of realizing those things, especially as you're trying to make those changes, of like, if anything, it reinforces the fact of why you want to make the change in the first place, because you spot these things in yourself to be able to hopefully get better.
It's like rewiring your brain. And if you want to learn more about that, there's one book, Cybernetics, and there's someone called Lauren Leaf. She does a lot of like, you know, rewiring your brain that you can make, you know, new neural pathways. She's actually really, I don't know if I ever share this with you. She's amazing. And so it's like, if you just like type in Lauren Leaf is her name, you'll see it. She's like from South Africa. Amazing accent. Love it so much.